President Trump has pardoned over 1,500 people this year, but I have new reporting tonight on one in particular that has caught our attention. Now, granting clemency to a former top entertainment executive probably wouldn't attract much scrutiny usually, especially given the president has pardoned January 6 rioters, a convicted drug trafficker, his own former chief of staff, the ex-CEO of a cryptocurrency exchange. You get the point. But this one stands out because Trump has pardoned now a former top entertainment executive who was indicted by Trump's own Justice Department less than 5 months ago. Now, this full and unconditional pardon for the Oakview Group co-founder Tim Leiweke was posted online tonight by the Justice Department. It's dated December 2nd. It bears the president's signature, as you can see here. But Leiweke was just indicted 5 months ago by Trump's own antitrust division over accusations that he orchestrated a conspiracy to rig the bidding process for a public university arena in Austin. A source tells me tonight that the former Republican Congressman Trey Gowdy actually lobbied the Justice Department for this to happen. But here's the other thing that stands out here. Beyond the fact that Trump is now pardoning someone, his own Justice Department, not the Biden Justice Department, not the Obama Justice Department, his own Justice Department actually indicted. He's also just pardoned someone who has a history of blasting him online. Look at this. In August 2023, the same day that Trump was indicted for conspiring to overturn the 2020 election, the person that Trump just pardoned, Leiweke, wrote, according to now deleted posts that were seen by CNN, "This isn't political, and God bless Vice President Pence for standing up and fighting for our Constitution and due process. If you have any shred of love for our country, let a jury of peers decide if he is innocent, not you." In another post from February 2024, Leiweke replied to a post that was praising the president's movement as being under God. He responded and said, "Claims the man that doesn't attend any mass on any Sunday, divorced twice, cheated on all 3 wives, paid off porn stars, don't think he is my compass on my God or my faith. World's single greatest con man." In March 2024, in response to an account that was sharing Trump's reaction to the Democrat Dean Phillips dropping out of the 2024 race, Leiweke said, "Honest Don, now that is a riot." Tonight, we reached out to Leiweke for comment, not just on his past comments on President Trump, but also this pardon. He told CNN he doesn't have the words to adequately convey his profound gratitude to the White House and President Trump. He said, "This has been a long and difficult journey for my wife, my daughter, and me. The president has given us a new lease on life." My political sources are here tonight. I've got the Democratic strategist Paul Begala and Republican strategist Doug Heye. And Doug, I mean, this was the Trump DOJ that indicted him.
Yeah, that's the real surprising thing about this, as you said in your intro, not somebody that
I had to look at the date really closely because I was like, there's no way this was from Trump's DOJ, but it was.
But it was
6 months ago.
And so there's a lot on this. One, we know Donald Trump's one of his most famous lines was he's going to drain the swamp. This swamp has gotten bigger and bigger, and the pardons are exactly why. And it's not what the White House wants to talk about clearly, but they're forced to because he's signing so many of these. And, we know that Donald Trump has been very effective on signing executive orders and then holding it up so we can all see what he's done. We don't see any of these. And so it tells us that they don't want to talk about this. They're not highlighting it. And I don't like to give Paul and Democrats advice very often, but if I'm the Democrats, I would say if we're not seeing these until they come out after the fact, gosh, they had to have been written by an auto pen. And why they're not using that sort of political jujitsu back at the White House and Republicans sort of surprises me because congressional Republicans don't want to be talking about this either.
Yeah. Paul, what do you think? You're the Democrat here.
Yeah, I think first Doug's smarter than we are. That's why we're not doing it. He's a brilliant guy and he's my friend. I do think, first off, you noted, this guy hadn't been convicted of anything. He was indicted by the Trump Justice Department and now he's been pardoned, so he's clear. I do think as a guy who's been convicted of 34 felonies himself, right, Donald Trump kind of has a soft spot for financial crimes and for public misconduct. Keep in mind, he was impeached twice for alleged public misconduct, Mr. Trump was. So there is a pattern. And it's not a strictly partisan pattern. I think Doug's right. First term, he pardoned Rod Blagojevich, Democratic governor, had been convicted of corruption. He just a few weeks ago pardoned George Santos, the corrupt Republican congressman. I heard you talking to Senator Tillis about this. Maybe the most outrageous one of all is this Juan Orlando Hernandez, one of the biggest drug traffickers on earth. He pardoned the Binance co-founder, Changpeng Zhao. who was convicted of money laundering. It goes on and on. So it's not simply partisan. Even as a partisan, I have to point out that it's not that. It seems to me he kind of identifies with people accused of, and in some cases convicted of, financial crimes and public misconduct.
Yeah, and you make a good point about Leiweke. He had denied all wrongdoing here previously, but the person he's denying wrongdoing against the Trump Justice Department that thought he did wrongdoing. I mean, they were the ones who brought this indictment against him. It was Gail Slater, who was one of the top officials at the Trump Justice Department, was put there by Trump. I mean, I can't imagine how she feels in the face of this pardon tonight. But Doug, the other, Democrats, Hakeem Jeffries is praising one of the president's pardons. That was for Henry Cuellar, a Democrat in Texas that Republicans have been trying to beat for years. Does that make it harder for Republicans when it comes to holding the House?
It sure does. And you're hearing Republicans say that, not just privately, but publicly. Richard Hudson, who I've known since college, is the head of the NRCC. He has said, yes, this makes our job harder. And he is as close to Trump as any Republican can. And it's interesting as you look at this, because Republicans clearly thought this was a seat that they could take. It takes that off the table. And why I don't understand the politics of this is, we hear a lot that Donald Trump doesn't care about Republicans. Okay, fine, or the Republican Party. But he sure cares about Republicans keeping the House. That is every conversation we're having on redistricting. So to use the old George W. Bush term by Will Ferrell, strategery, I don't understand their strategery of making it easier for Democrats to take back the House. That will make Donald Trump's life much harder if that happens.
Yeah, Paul, the other thing that has kind of, I don't know, it's fascinated Washington here tonight. We'll see, what the ramifications are. But speaking of what that majority looks like, Speaker Mike Johnson is taking incoming from a House Republican tonight in Elise Stefanik, who has gone to the Wall Street Journal and basically blasted his leadership and said, in her view, he certainly wouldn't have the votes to be Speaker. There was a roll call vote for tomorrow. I believe that the majority of Republicans would vote for new leadership. It's that widespread. Basically says Kevin McCarthy is a political animal in her view. She says Mike Johnson is a political novice. I mean, it is kind of stunning to see someone like Elise Stefanik in her position, how elevated she's been, obviously, before she had, gone down the road of becoming ambassador to the United Nations, blasting Mike Johnson like this.
Yeah, just where's my popcorn? I am here for this, Caitlin. But as we would say back home, bless her heart. Her hopes to be governor, right? She was going to run for governor. She probably still will. She was going to run against the Democratic governor there, Kathy Hochul, and paint her as the evil twin of Zohran Mamdani, the socialist mayor-elect of New York. Guess who just praised the socialist mayor-elect? So that campaign is roadkill. Doug's right about Henry Cuellar. Yesterday, the Republicans announced that they had recruited a guy who was a Democrat a year ago, the Webb County judge, really a powerful, influential, well-liked guy. He switched parties about a year ago. He announced for that race yesterday. And today, Trump pulls the rug out from under him, just like he did with Elise Stefanik. I don't know. I've spent most of my career trying to divide and depress and demoralize and defeat Republicans. So I just want to say thank you, President Trump, for helping me.
Well, I mean, Doug, but when you look at this, I think people around Mike Johnson are even maybe a little taken aback by her comments, so publicly going after him. It seems almost personal. And, for people who've been following this, it's not clear. Maybe it'll help her politics as she's running for governor in New York. Mike Johnson, when she came back after the White House pulled her nomination, he created a seat for her back on House Intelligence to make sure she could be on the committee, had to add a seat, give another seat to Democrats. I mean, it's not like he's totally, just left her hanging in this situation.
He created a seat in leadership for her that didn't exist. He not only kept her on intel, he kept her seniority, which is really important. So this is sort of surprising, except one thing that we've seen as a constant is if you complain about your own leadership, you get a lot of attention. And certainly we've seen that with Marjorie Taylor Greene. We're seeing that with Elise Stefanik as well. But we know that Republicans could have a rocky election year. And I would tell them, whether it's Elise Stefanik or Nancy Mace, who's making her own noise these days, you either can hang together or you can hang separately. And that's the political reality that is facing Republicans moving into this election season.
Yeah. Doug,
Paul is depressing, by the way. He's depressed us for years.
Well, that's because of his Texas football fandom, right?
Right. By the way, that's a great basketball arena in Austin. Texas is playing Virginia right now, and I'm not watching it. That's how much I love CNN and you, Doug and Caitlin. That's
Paul,
how much
do you think Bama's going to make the playoffs?
They will. They're great. You know, we played y'all last year. Yes, I think they will and they should. I think Texas should too, but I think they're going to hammer us.
I'm going to clip your comments and send them to the committee. Paul
No
Begala.
one's going to say that Alabama's not going to make the playoffs if they're talking to you.
Yeah.
that's the reality.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, they're a great team.
You can speak truth to me. Paul Begala and Doug Heye, great to have you both here.
Been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.